They called me crazy.
They called me crazy. Well, let me ask you something. Do I look crazy?
All right. Let's take this whole thing down a notch. Now, you know I can't exactly go around saying I have a prepping channel without chiming in on this whole coronavirus thing. Here's the thing. I can't really talk about this from a medical science perspective. You guys know all the same stuff I do. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm a consumer of media, and accordingly, I'm pretty much at the mercy of getting my information from the CDC or the WHO or whoever. The only thing I can say is to urge people not to get all their information on this whole thing from any and every old television news channel or evening news. They're all gonna say the same stuff. They're trying to stir up frenzy because it generates clicks, it generates views. Don't get all your information about this from Facebook. I love a good conspiracy theory as much as anyone. Obviously, I have to have some level of, I don't know, call it paranoia or hyper awareness in me to be interested in prepping in the first place. But seriously, stop listening to the crazies on your Facebook prepping group and reading your conspiracy theory websites about this being a politically motivated virus outbreak to try to sway the election or some kind of espionage cahoots with the Chinese biological warfare lab or whatever. Even if all of it's true or any of it's true, it doesn't really change where we're at right now. And that is to stop freaking out, stop panicking. Like I said, I can't talk about this from a medical science perspective because you know all the same stuff I do with regards to that. What I feel like I am in a position to talk about is what has sort of become an explosion in the prepping aspect of this. If you've been watching the news or any of that stuff, you're seeing footage of people buying out all the toilet paper in Costco. You know that you can't find any of these handy N95 face masks anywhere. You probably are having a hard time finding hand sanitizer anywhere. Costco's are selling out of toilet paper, all that kind of nonsense. And I want to talk about that because people keep asking me, friends and family, saying, I don't know what to believe. Why would I not freak out a little bit about this when the evening news is showing people panic buying all the stuff out of Costco's and supermarkets all across the country? And the answer, as I'm sure a lot of you will understand, is the reason people are panic buying is because they're being shown people panic buying. If the crowd is scared, everyone's going to be scared. And the news media is very good at making that happen and profiting off of it and doing anything but what is constructive. Now, I'm not going to say not to be prepared, not to be stocked up. That's kind of my thing. I urge everyone to be that way. But it's not about going and spending all your money right now on every last thing to clear out the store shelves. People are panic buying because people are panic buying. They're worried about two things. One, they're worried that if they do need stuff from a store, they're not going to be able to get it because it will have already been panic bought. So, to make sure they have the stuff that they just need on a regular old ordinary kind of day, they got to go try to buy as much as they can as well because all of the other people are buying it out of fear. The other thing, and this is the practical reason why anybody would start hoarding and stockpiling food and supplies, is the thing that I don't think anyone's really fully examining the practicality of. And that's that the idea that if this virus really starts sweeping across the country, you're going to want to avoid it by isolating yourself in your home or wherever, and to stay away from public of all sorts in order to avoid contracting this virus. You would stay holed up in your home for 2 weeks or a month or whatever. You got to hoard up all the stuff that you could foreseeably need for that amount of time, because you're not going to leave your house to go to the grocery store or a restaurant or anywhere else. That's really the only practical reason to be stockpiling things, specifically for the coronavirus scare. But who's really examining what that means? For that to make any sense, it means being absolutely committed to not leaving your house, to remaining completely isolated. That's something some people can do. It's something some people are able to do, but it's a thing that I expect most people either won't or can't do. I think I could very well stay in this house for up to a month and not ever leave, and I'd probably get out of it just fine. I might be a little nuttier than I currently am, but I have the ability to do it, and I think I have the constitution to do it. But I also don't have other people that depend on me to leave this place on a regular basis. Families, they have kids. Are we assuming all the schools are canceled? Are we assuming that everybody's workplaces are telling them, don't come in. Everybody isolate yourselves at home. Nobody's going to have to go to a doctor. Nobody's going to have to go to any store or appointment or take their kids to any activities. And not only that, nobody's going to have visitors to their home. You've got kids, your kids' friends, they can't come over. Family members, they can't come over. Once this isolation begins, there's nobody in or out. And if you can't acknowledge that and resolve that will be what you do with, absolute resolve, then there's no point in gathering enough supplies and stuff to outlast that period of quarantine or isolation or whatever you want to call it. That being the case, the only real reason anybody is panic buying and stockpiling right now with regards to the coronavirus is because other people are doing it. And we're worried that when all the shelves are empty, we're not going to be able to get ours. Now, there's merit to that. If everything's gone, you can't get any. Although it's kind of a core principle of prepping that you should already have everything that you might need, because once that panic starts, you won't be amongst the zombie hordes roaming the grocery stores trying to buy up everything on the shelves. I'm hoping that everybody in the prepping community isn't among these people, because you're already prepared. You are already ready for something like this. With regards to the virus outbreak itself, well, there's a lot of conflicting information. Sometimes we hear from the CDC, it's not really that much to worry about. The sickness isn't that serious. It's not really much worse than the common flu. But on the other hand, they're releasing a lot of information about self-quarantine and avoiding public and busy places if the virus starts to sweep through your area and that kind of thing. And be prepared with some supplies in case quarantine at home directives are announced if this thing gets worse. So it's hard to know exactly what you're supposed to do. Panicking, that's not going to make any sense. Saying that this is the big one and activating your massive bug out plan, if you think it's time for that right now, that's your decision, but I certainly do not. If we had any expectation that this is going to bring down the grid and the supply chain and all the infrastructure, and it's going to cripple the power companies and the water companies and communication, then by all means, load up your van and head out to the hills and activate your doomsday compound. I don't think we're at that point. I think that even if it gets bad and it is suggested that people isolate themselves, why wouldn't you stay at your home? Unless the utilities are going to fail and the roving, starving masses are going to start, crawling through the streets. Well, you can look at footage of Wuhan, China and know that that's not happening. Nobody's going anywhere because they're afraid of catching it. The streets are empty. Trying to speak a little bit of sense to this whole thing. If you need to stock up on some things, by all means do it. That's good. That's good advice for any day of the week, any time of the year if you're into prepping. But panic buying, don't be that person. You don't need to. Get the supplies you'd ordinarily need. Get some extras if you think you're running low on something. But don't drive from store to store trying to buy up every last whatever you can get your hands on. There's no cause for it. Don't be on the local evening news with a camera showing you knocking over old ladies to grab the last roll of toilet paper or whatever. We should be a little better than that. We should be better prepared than that. And last thing I'll say is go online and read the guidelines about these masks. If you've got these on hand, go and read about what actually is useful and not useful about them. If you don't have the coronavirus, wearing the mask will not keep you from getting it. They're only really useful if you already have it and you want to protect other people from getting it. If you try to wear them preventatively, all you're doing is wasting them. There's a huge shortage right now. Don't go and spend $100 for 5 of these things. Unless you've already got the virus, and in which case, you've got bigger fish to fry and you should probably be calling the hospital or whatever you're supposed to do. I guess that's about it for now. A little bit of a soapbox sort of a video, but this thing's gotten pretty out of hand already, and there's only 108 cases in the United States that have been reported. I forget how many deaths, 10 or 17 or something. But have some common sense. Stop freaking out. I promise you, if it's time to freak out, we're all going to know it. If it's this crazy right now and all the news and the internet and everybody's crazy uncle on the Facebook, I promise you that we're going to know when it's time to actually be scared and do what we do best. So that's it for now. If something more comes along that I think is worth talking about with this whole thing, I'll absolutely make another video. But for now, that's all I have to say on the matter. Use common sense. Wash your hands. Don't lick strangers. If you're immunocompromised or especially old or vulnerable, use the same common sense you would around cold and flu season. That's it. Until next time, this is Great Lakes Prepping.